Alright, I'm just gonna test the audio first. I think I did see my go live. Alright, I'm just gonna test the audio first. Alright, it worked. I just want to make sure my voice changer was off. Did I get a voice changer? So we're just gonna go back into web development. So far we covered everything up to basic CSS, and we're actually gonna start where we left off in the last tutorial, which is here. Use abbreviated hex code. Many people feel overwhelmed by the possibilities of more than 16 million colors. It's difficult to remember hex code. Fortunately, you can shorten it. So basically, they're just telling you another way of representing a color. For example, red hex code. So this means red in hexadecimal code. I'm not going to go too much into it, but they do tell you what it is. Can be shortened to F00. So it's kind of like for every F, it corresponds with this, and the 0 corresponds to this, and the last 0 corresponds to this. The shortened form gives 1 digit of red, 1 digit of green, and 1 digit value of blue, so it's RGB. This reduces the total number of possible colors to around 4,000. Browsers will interpret FF, the color, exactly the same. So if you use the shorthand version, it'll be the same as the longhand version. So now they give you colors, so they're telling you what the code is for it. So they're just gonna have us try it. So go ahead using these hex codes to color the correct elements. Alright. So it's cayenne. I'm actually not sure what cayenne looks like, but we're gonna find out. Cayenne, alright, so that's cayenne. So this is the code for green. So let's paste it into green. So remember, this is a class. The green class, now green is green. Now we're gonna do red. Now we're gonna do red. There's another color I almost can't pronounce. Is that pronounced fuchsia? Yeah, I never heard of that. Alright. Let's find out what that looks like. So it's like a purplish color. So if you notice, the result changes as the code changes per instructions. So I think we did what we were supposed to do. Oh, is that all we're supposed to do? Yeah. So we're gonna run the tests. It should work out. And that's it. Use RGB values to color elements. Okay. Another way you can represent colors in CSS is by using RGB values. So that's kind of what they were talking about before. So it's kind of like, if you remember, is it called the color wheel? I forget what it's called, but it's kind of like any kind of color can be generated by a combination of red, green, and blue. So the RGB value for black looks like this, so it's zeroed out. The RGB value for white looks like 255, so that's at its full value. So I think what's true is that isn't white a combination of all the colors, and black is an absence of all the colors, I believe. I kind of had a weird feeling it was the other way around, but that's kind of what's going on there. Instead of using 6 hexadecimal digits, you can do it with hex code. With RGB, you specify the brightness of each color with a number between 0 and 255. If you do the math, the 2 digits for one color equals 16 times 16, which gives us 256 total values. So RGB, which starts counting from 0, has the exact same number of possible values as hex code. That's actually very hard to say. Here's an example of how you change the body background to orange using its RGB code. Alright. Yeah, because it's in the body element, and or tag, and has this color. Let's replace the hex code in our body element's background color with RGB value for black. Alright, so I think all we literally do is we just copy and paste this. And paste it here. Alright, so what I was supposed to do. Alright. Use RGB to mix colors. Just like the hex code, you can mix colors in RGB by using combinations of different values. Replace the hex codes in our style element with their correct RGB values. Blue is, so this is for blue. This is for red. This is for orchid, is this called? It's sienna. I don't know. I don't know any of these colors. Alright, so it's kind of like a similar thing to the last one. So it's like we could have put blue or red here, you know, but it's just another way of representing that is this. And kind of the reason why is this more complex. You can't have a name for, well, it's kind of difficult to have a name or remember the name of all the colors, so you can actually just put the variation in there. But let's do what it's asking us to do. So for blue, this is blue. This is red. This is orchid. So replacing this. This is sienna. And oh, actually I think I made a mistake. I put... Oh, no, I didn't make a mistake. Orchid. Yeah, no, okay. So for blue, it's going to be this. Yep, alright. So if I run that, that works out. So then all we're doing is we're putting in another representation of a color. Use CSS variables to change several elements at once. CSS variables are a powerful way to change many CSS style properties at once by changing only one value. Follow the instructions below on how changing just 3 values can change the styling of many elements. In the Penguin class, change the black value to gray, the gray value to white, and the yellow value to orange. Okay, so these are the variables. So I kind of explained how to use variables in the other programming tutorials, but this is kind of how you would make a variable in CSS. Alright, so if we make the black value gray, the gray value white, the yellow value orange, and this is how you would use it. So this is how you would use to let it know it's a variable, and then make that the color. Create a custom CSS variable. To create a CSS variable, you just need to give it a name with 2 hyphens in front of it and assign it a value like this. Okay. So I think it's asking me to do that here. This will create a variable named penguin skin and assign the value to gray. This will create a variable named penguin skin and assign the value to gray. Now you can use that variable elsewhere in your CSS to change the value of other properties to gray. So instead of renaming everything to gray, you can just use this variable so that it would just automatically change to it. In the penguin class, create a variable named penguin skin. Alright, so we're going to create a variable. So penguin skin and we're going to assign that the value of gray. Alright. I think that's all it's asking us to do. Yeah. So that's making a variable. And kind of giving it its value. So that would be the value. Use a custom CSS variable. After you create your variable, you can assign it its value to other CSS properties by referencing the name you gave it. So instead of saying the background is blue or yellow or red or something, this would mean that make the color, instead of saying the color, it would mean that it would take up the color of penguin skin. So that would be gray. So that's kind of how you use a variable. This will change the background of whatever element you were targeting to gray, because that is a value of the penguin skin variable. Note that styles will be applied unless the variable names are the exact match. Apply a penguin skin variable to the background color, to the background property of the penguin top, penguin bottom, right hand, left hand classes. Okay, so we'll just copy this. Because it is created, right? Oh, yeah. I was like, so instead of saying penguin, instead of saying penguin black, we're gonna put this. We're also gonna put this here. So instead of black, we're setting it to the value of the penguin skin variable, which is gray. So now we got just the right hand left. Oh. Put an extra semicolon. Oh. I think it's kind of, yeah, so it's a penguin. So even though it's on the right hand, it's actually the left hand, because it's the penguin hands. It's the penguin's left. Okay. So once we do that, it'll be the penguin's left hand, but our right. Attach a fallback value to a CSS variable. So again, kind of the word fallback kind of implies like a plan B. So if plan A didn't work out, go to plan B. So it's like, let's say for whatever reason, you know, this fancy CSS variable doesn't work. Then you can just say, okay, if that doesn't work, then I'll pick this. It's like if you put in a food delivery, if they don't have that, I'll use that, you know. So it's just, you know, that's what it is. When using your variable as a CSS property value, you can attach a fallback value that your browser will revert if the given variable is invalid. This fallback is not used to increase browser compatibility, and it will not work on Internet Explorer browsers. Rather, as it is used that the browser has a color to display if it cannot find your variable. Here's how you do it. So instead, you put another parameter. It could be blue. It could be green. It could be yellow. And what this is saying is if this fails, then use this. Now, kind of the lesson here is it's supposed to fail because if you notice, it's spelled wrong. And it's supposed to be spelled wrong because it's kind of forcing it to fail to show you, the fallback in action. So, if you do change the spelling to the correct spelling, the variable actually works, and then it doesn't go to yellow because it doesn't need to go to yellow because the variable worked. So the fallback plan doesn't get used. This will set the background to black if your variable wasn't set. And this can be useful for debugging. So what kind of debugging is basically, I think the word it actually comes from when I think it was the first computer that was ever made. Back then they actually had actual bugs. It was an actual bug that was in the computer, and they had to get rid of it, and then the computer worked. So what debugging kind of means is if your code is just broken, it's not doing what it's supposed to do. It's just going through the code and fixing it. It's just getting your code to work. It's kind of like troubleshooting, whatever word you want to use, but it's pretty much that for code. And kind of why it would is because, and it would be good for debugging, is because, if you make it like a color that stands out, then you can make it very clear that, oh, this variable is the one that's not working. This is what's not working, so it can help you identify the problem easier because it's visually represented when you apply it. It looks like there's a problem with the variable supplied to the Penguin Top and Penguin Bottom classes. Rather than fix the typo, add a fallback value of black to the background property of Penguin Top and Bottom. Okay, so I did correct the spelling. So I'm gonna break the spelling again. So it does go to yellow. And what do they want the fallback value to be? They want it to be black. I'm gonna make this black. So then we set a fallback value. Alright, so now this tests out. Improve compatibility with browser fallbacks. When working with CSS, you'll likely run into browser compatibility issues at some point. This is why it's important to provide browser fallbacks to avoid potential problems. When your browser parses the CSS of a web page, it ignores any properties that it doesn't recognize or support. For example, if you use the CSS variable to assign a background color on a site, Internet Explorer will ignore the background color because it does not support CSS variables. In that case, the browser will use whatever value it has for that property. If it can't find any other value set for that property, it will revert to the default value, which is typically not ideal. So basically, it's kind of like in the last module, we deliberately misspelled it to make the browser not work, but Internet Explorer, for example, it would not understand this. So because it wouldn't understand this, it wouldn't work. So you would want to put in another color to take its place. If you kind of would want a fallback color in that case. So last time we forced it to not work because we literally misspelled it. So we would find a variable that doesn't exist. But in this case, you would have to just tell in order to make it compatible for something like Internet Explorer, you would make it blue, or you would make it, green. And then Internet Explorer would know that that's what you're trying to do. This means that if you do want to provide a browser fallback, it's as easy as providing another widely supported value immediately before your declaration. That way an older browser will have something to fall back on, while a newer browser will just interpret whatever the declaration comes later in the... It looks like a variable is being used to set the background color of red box. Let's improve the browser compatibility by adding another background declaration right before the existing declaration and set its value to red. Okay, so I think what it's saying is another way to do that is make another piece of code that actually sets it to red. So if you do that, so if it doesn't understand this, it will understand this. So that's all for that tutorial. Oh. Okay, so inherit CSS variables. Let's just see how far we've went so far. So we're right up to here. Then we're just going to continue on and on. And continue on. Actually, what we're going to do is we're going to finish this, and then we're going to go to this basic CSS. It's going to be kind of a review of everything, but it has more examples in the new one. So, but then we're actually just going to stick to the new one and then just continue on, because it's the closest to a kind of being able to use an example. So they have these things called certification projects, where you can actually kind of do an assignment. So that kind of is the closest way to that. So I'm gonna actually just attempt that and then put that on GitHub. now we're just going to finish the basic CSS one. When you create a variable, it is available to you to use inside the selector in which you create it. It's also available at any point of that of the selector's descendants. This means that because CSS variables are inherited, just like ordinary properties, to make use of inheritance, CSS variables are often defined in the root element. Root is a pseudo-class selector that matches the root element of the document, usually the HTML element. By creating your variables in root, they will be available globally and can be accessed from any other selector in the style sheet. Okay? Define a variable named penguin belly. So let's copy this. I'm gonna make that pink. You can see that the variable is inherited, and all the child elements which use it gets pink backgrounds. Okay, so one moment. Change a variable for a specific area. When you create your variables in root, they will set the value of that variable for the whole page. You can then overwrite these variables by setting them again with a specific selector. Change the value of penguin belly to white, so in the penguin class. In the penguin class. Just one moment. So I think it's saying it's changed up here. Oh, okay, now I think I had a misunderstanding of what it was asking me to do. I think it's saying create the variable, because I don't see a variable being created here. So that's it. So we created one for the root class and then one for the penguin class. I think we should actually mess around with it more. We'll say we set it to black. So it's overriding the local. If we make this white again, let's say we set this to black. Use a media query to change a variable. CSS variables can simplify the way you use media queries. For instance, when your screen is smaller or larger than your media query breakpoint, you can change the value of a variable and it'll apply its style wherever it's used. In the root selector of the media query, change it so that the penguin size is redefined and given a value of 200 pixels. Also redefine the penguin skin and give it a value of black, and then resize the preview to see this change in action. Alright, so this is a media inquiry. It has an @ symbol before it. I'm going to try to find a good definition of a media query. So media queries is a feature of CSS allowing content rendering to adapt to different conditions such as a screen resolution. So essentially, the purpose of it is if it's a different kind of device viewing the content, sometimes what can happen is it can get distorted. If it's made for kind of a computer, it won't work properly if it's on a phone, or if it's on a phone, it won't work properly if it's on a tablet. It'll be different. So what you kind of want to do is you want to make it compatible for all three, so it can recognize the kind of device it is, and then it'll adjust. But the instructions is in the root selector of the media query, change it so that penguin size is 200. Also redefine penguin skin, say to be black. Then resize the preview to see this change. Alright, I don't think I can do that. Can I do that? I don't know if they can do that. I'm on a computer. We'll see if it worked though. Oh. Okay, I see what it's saying. Redefine it. Alright, so So it was penguin size, then penguin skin. Oh, I'll make this 200. Yeah, and this one was one to make 200. Try to make sure the computer's plugged in. Create a visual balance using the text-align property. This section of the curriculum focuses on applied visual design. The first group of challenges builds on the given card layout to show a number of core principles. Text is often a large part of web content. CSS has several options for how to align it with the text-align property. Text-align justify. So what this does is it spaces the text so that each line has equal width. Text line center centers the text. Text line right, it puts it on the right. And text line left, it puts it on the left. Align the H4 tags text, which says Google, to the center. Then justify the paragraph text, which contains information about how Google was founded. Okay. So align it. So align this. So we're going to put the center property. Alright. Then justify the paragraph text. Oh, the paragraph tag. Yeah. Which contains information about how Google was founded. So then we're going to style it. Use a text align. And justify. So I believe that's what we had to do. Oh, hold on. Are we... So we just finished basic CSS. Alright. So yeah, so I think I'm just gonna go live again. But then we're gonna work on this. Then we're gonna work on this. So this should be kind of review of what we learned. And then we're gonna do this all up to the first project, so we can apply what we know. And at that point, I'm gonna try to review everything and try to kind of make. I'm gonna try to apply it to the first of the MVCap website. Um, so yeah, so that's all for now. But I'm gonna go. I intend to go live again shortly.